welcome everyone who is here for the first time or back after a long time. We love you and we missed you, and we're glad to see you back. For those of you who are brand new, there's a table back there under the Welcome Newcomers sign, and it has some information about our community. And we hope that you feel completely at home. It is kind of a different Sunday. It's a special Sunday because we have Reverend Barbara Leger with us today, in addition to me, so you get two talks. It won't take up any more of your time on this very important Sunday, But Reverend Barbara is the spiritual director of our sister community in Cherkasy, Ukraine. And so when Margaret said she had this song that she sang in Russia and Kiev, I thought that would be the perfect one to welcome Reverend Barbara. So both of us were weeping, and what a good way to start the morning. So to catch everyone up, if you have not been with us since the beginning of the year, this is our theme for the whole year, Your Joyous Life. We just thought however is our baseline for how much joy we have in our lives, everybody could stand more, right? I mean, you're not to your limit yet, right? Good. So that's exactly what we're doing this year, is increasing our joy. And so February, the theme for February is about love, of course, marriage and relationships and friendships and love in relationships. So the theme for the month is love is the self-givingness of God. Now, if you're new to this philosophy, self-givingness can sound a little jargony, but it basically means that there is a benevolent energy in the universe that I call God. You can call it whatever you want, but that this energy is forever giving of itself in every single thing, giving of itself as your pets, giving of itself as the sun rises, giving of itself as your new friend, giving of itself as lunch and the Super Bowl. And I mean, that's how God gives us the Super Bowl. Isn't that amazing? So it speaks of the infinite generosity of this life that we live. And if that's a new concept for you, it's one that it's just like joy. We can all use more joy. We can all use more belief that God is about infinite generosity. The goal for this month is to increase love. Is that okay with everybody? Can you use a little more of that in your life? Good, me too. I'd like to draw your attention to this altar of love that is a Sean creation today. And there are lots and lots of hearts on the altar because she says that love comes in all forms. So that's the wonderful altar. We have a book study that's going on for the whole year. There were some people here last Sunday who were visitors. They bought this book. We've got some in the bookstore. They're going to start their own book study. We have some you can sign up for in the back. Here are your practices this month to increase love. Quit nagging. Don't expect praise or appreciation. Fight right. No dumping. And give proofs of love. So we'll talk about some of these things later in the month, but that's your assignment. The title today is, What Would Love Do Now? And what love is going to do right now is offer you Reverend Barbara Leger from America and Ukraine. Please welcome Reverend Barbara.
It's so great to be back home here with y'all. And I'm getting ready to go to my other home, one of my other homes. I'm headed to Ukraine the end of March, God willing, and the creek don't rise too much. I'm so grateful for the music this morning. I've been in all those cities and started around the same time. And the first line was, you know, and the faces, the grim faces that didn't smile. And when Reverend Karyl came to Ukraine, you know, that's often the first image. And some of you who have been there, Rick, and others of you, Reverend Brent, I don't know if he's here, yes. Often what we see is that grimness that appears on the street. But one of the things that people who have come to visit and they've stayed for a few days say, wow, you know, we can start picking your students out of the crowd because of exactly what your song was. You know, I do sing, but not like you. But when we connect at any level of art, then, you know, we connect at the level of heart. And that's really the deal, to do whatever we do at that level so we can connect that way. So I'm very grateful to be here, and I have a few key things to say. First of all, I want to say thank you to Joe and Jet, who just always make sure you remember us and bring the partnership table the first Sunday of every month. I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for this community and all that it has done and does for us to be the branch that we stand on, that we've flown from, that we come back to. I remember when we started, there was a slogan here, you heard it all the time, the world living in peace and love, one heart at a time. And that's really the only way to get to peace and love, is one heart at a time. It's not something you can legislate. It's only something you can reveal. This morning as I was driving down in the fog, before I turned the news off, I was already distracted enough and I didn't need any more of that. But there was this notice that the peace talks fell apart this morning in Ukraine. And, or you could say the truce fell apart and everybody left. And I was thinking about that, and a lot of people worry. People say, how are you? And they have this serious look on your face, you know, or on their faces. And I go, we're great. And they say, well, how can that be? The peace talks are falling apart. Donetsk looks like a war zone, you know. It's been bombed, and people, there's refugees everywhere in Ukraine. They've all left the east. They've left Crimea. They're scattered about. People in our community have family members living with them. It's a different world. We can't quite imagine that world of refugees in our backyard. We've never had that. But what happens when you are threatened with something that threatens your well-being, or you get a life-threatening situation? Reverend Karyl would call it a sudden deepening. I remember that. Well, war is a sudden deepening. Coups, revolutions, occupations, territorial captures, all of those things are sudden deepenings. And those things have all happened this year in Ukraine. And so we here learn to focus on the half-full cup, not the half-empty cup. And the question today that Reverend Karyl asked me to address is, what would love do now? So I want to share with you what love is doing now in Ukraine, with me, in the country, in my community. And I want to, and I have like, 10 minutes left to tell you this. So let me tell you that my vision is that the world experiences peace in our lifetime. In our lifetime. Now, that is entirely possible. In fact, that is really what's wanting to happen. Just think about any sudden deepening that any of us have had. When our back is up against the wall and we're faced with some health crisis or some financial crisis or some relationship crisis, what is it that we want? Where does it push us? It pushes us to our faith. It pushes us to, do I believe enough in healing that I can imagine myself well, that I can imagine this condition not limiting my wellness wherever we are in that whole process of healing? That's what having your back up against the wall does, if you let it. You could, unfortunately, let it go to what often happens, you know, at the hairdressers and at the meat market and on the buses and on the corners. It's like, oh gosh, isn't life just awful? You know, things are so hard. We could do that. But what happens when we do that is we feed the very thing we don't want. So what love is doing now in Ukraine is, it's like Ukraine is offering themselves, and maybe it sounds a little too self-important, but That's what it's always felt like to me. Like Ukraine is offering itself up to be used for peace. One of the very first visions I ever had about my ministry in Ukraine, which brought tears to my eyes just like that, when God said, well, Ukraine is a midwife for me. A midwife for me. It's like, oh. Well, every one of us is a midwife. Every one of us is here to reveal that which we say is the truth, that love is all there is. Well, if that's so, where is it in me? If that's so, if I want it there, can I have it there if I don't have it here? No, I can't. So what is love doing now? Love has pushed us through the knothole. I honestly can tell you, this has been the hardest 18 months of my ministry. And it hasn't been because things are hard because of the war. I mean, it is. The economy has collapsed. When I left, a dollar was 8 grivnas, nice and stable. Been that way for 5 years. Today it's 17. So everything costs twice as much, and it's just a mess. But is that why my life has been hard? No. Is that why their life has been hard? No. Why has it been hard? Because when we call for healing, revealing peace, when we call for that, everything unlike that shows up. I tell you, I have been crankier this year than I have been in 14 years. No, that's the truth. I've had more expectations. Maybe I had them all along, I just didn't see them. And this year, I have been dragged, like Melissa used to love to say, kicking and screaming all the way to self-awareness. And what did I see? I saw that I was feeding the very thing that I didn't want to experience. I was focused on the problem. I was focused on the difficulty. I was focused on the unmet needs and the unmet expectations. I was looking at what didn't work, and I was trying to get everybody out of that pot. Have you ever had anybody try to pull you out of the pot of not working? It doesn't feel good. What happens? Your heels go in. The more I pulled, the more everybody dug their heels in, the worse it got. The more I tried, the harder I worked, the less they listened, the whole thing. We almost lost Temenos this year. Honestly, we almost did. That's the truth. I haven't talked about that. So, what is it that caused that? It was having our attention on the things that don't matter. Having our attention on the things that are broken, not on the things that want to happen. So if we ask ourselves, what's love doing now? Love is asking us to see that if peace is, how can we have joy? That's our theme for this year. How can we have joy if we don't have peace? It's impossible to experience joy if we don't have some inner stability. Peace is one of those foundational states of being. And you don't have to have everything working great in your life to have peace. My life still isn't working great in all these ways, but I am back in peace. And so is my community. And why? Because war asks a conscious person, what would love do now in the face of war? And there's only one answer, and that is to remove the aggression from my heart. That is to remove the judgment from my mind. That is to move the anger from my mouth. We all knew that 18 months ago when this all started. Well, actually, it was about 14 months ago. We all knew that, but we had to go slogging through the valley of the shadow of the darkness of all of our states of being. Ужас какой, really. I mean, it was just awful. And that's a great phrase, ужас какой. You know, oy vey. So when you see yourself like that, and you can hold yourself lightly, then you can look at this stuff that you're focused on. I had so much shame, honestly. I became a cranky boss. I was embarrassed. I was not modeling what I teach. And one of my practitioners, who happens to be our bookkeeper, finally said to me, Barbara, do you know how often you're using the word hard or difficult in your conversation with us? At first, like every good spiritual leader, I denied that truth. No, I'm a good spiritual leader. I know what we're supposed to be doing. Come on, let's go there. And they said, well, yeah, you do say that, but you don't really believe we're going to go there with you, and you really think it's going to be hard. And you talk about that all the time, and actually it's getting harder. So I allowed that to wake me up. I allowed it. I gave her permission. I gave myself permission to get what she was saying. And then our lives started to change. Because then we started to put our attention on what was working, not on what we didn't like. And the minute we start measuring what matters, this is a key phrase, you watch for it. I've got a book in process now, a website and everything else, so nobody can take it. I shouldn't have said this, we're on live stream. But anyway, these words are mine. Measuring what matters is the way to learn, for me and maybe for you, how to do the things we say, just love anyway. Well, how do we just love anyway? Just be in peace. How do we be in peace? We have to measure the things that lead to peace, not the things that lead to separation. It's very simple. We say it all the time. We nod in agreement. We say, yes, I know this. And then we go back to the office and I don't do that very much anymore. And if I do, everybody has permission to say stop. So that's really what I believe love is doing with us. We have gone through the knothole, N-O-T-W-H-O-L-E. Doesn't mean we're perfect, doesn't mean we don't forget. But what if the peace that wants to happen relies on your puzzle piece? Remember when Reverend Karyl gave us these nice gold puzzle pieces, I don't know, 10 years ago or something? 20, oh my God. Well, we have been at it for a while, and I think we're getting closer. But I still have my puzzle piece. And what if this world of peace only is going to happen when we really believe it enough to measure what matters, instead of all the things that people will agree with us about how hard life is? You know, what do you hear at the grocery store, at the hairdressers? That's one of the worst. You know, everybody's sharing their complaints. Love wants us to be in love, not in complaining, not in focusing on, oh, the grass is getting brown, there's a really big drought, it's not so pretty. So what? You know, so what is ours to do? So I just ask you, if peace is important to you, if you believe it's a foundational aspect of living a good life, ask yourself, let it be what you measure. Are you in peace? Where are you in peace? Where are you not in peace? Don't be ashamed if you're not. Be willing to be as foolish as I am and tell everybody. Or just tell somebody, tell a practitioner. And remember that peace is our nature. We are peace. We are here to reveal peace. To do that, we have to see the barriers and we have to remove them consciously. With love, with forgiveness, without judgment. There's a lot of things happening. The whole world is circling around Ukraine. Ukraine is saying, use us to realize that war isn't an option. War isn't an option. If it were, there would have been one. There would have been one already. Wars have been started for much less than what we've gone through this year. So if war isn't an option, what is the option? And how's it going to happen? And what if it's only going to happen when Danny decides to be totally peaceful and work through all of his stuff? And me, and Sarah, and Barbara, and Karyl, and all of us. And what if it's not going to take years of therapy? What if it's not going to take all the stuff? What if right now we can decide to measure what matters, starting when we leave? And if that little thing becomes a good hook for you, a good handle, then use it. And measure what matters until you experience the joy that is your nature. That's what I'm doing. That's my spiritual practice, and that's what I invite you into. So I invite you to come back to Ukraine and sing your songs. Come to the conference. We're doing it the third week in August so that teachers and students can come. Our community is in a totally safe part of Ukraine, and we invite you to stay connected with us. I'm grateful for being here today. There's, I want to end with this little poem that my aunt and I wrote 30 years ago. Line by line, she just died, she was 99 years old, but it was called A New Life. We're all being called to live a new life, one that is free from struggle and strife. Impossible, you say, that can just never be. But of course it's possible through you and through me. This brave new world needs our vision, our hope, to build up our strength and do more than cope with the stress and frustration that builds up each day and keeps us from knowing that love is the way. For love is the answer. It is our birthright. And of this simple truth, we must never lose sight. So let your light shine for the whole world to see. And bring your ukulele. Bring whatever it is that helps your light shine. Your fishing pole, your books, your music, your words, your wisdom. Bring that. Let your light shine for the whole world to see and know it is written, on earth peace shall be. Thank you.
So, a great Sunday. You get 2 for 1 today. I'm going to talk about something very, very different, and then we're going to bring it all together. I could not do this because February 1st is an ancient holiday dedicated to a goddess that actually probably had origins in Egypt and then went up into the steppes of Russia and then across Europe and ended up finally in Ireland. Tonight is Bridget's night. It is the night when all of the villages in Ireland would tamp out their fires and await the coming of Bridget in the night, and the way they knew it was that the ashes would be disturbed in the fireplace, because this is the time of year when this wonderful goddess emerged onto the land, who is really the epitome of the soul of the world. So she went by many names across Europe: Bridget, Brigid, Breed, Brigga, Bride, Bridie, many different names. She's called the Fiery Arrow and the Bright One, and she represents hearth and home and healing. And actually, I love this image of her because of the 3 faces. She's called a triple goddess of poetry, that's the lyre, the forge, that's the fire in the middle, she's holding fire in her hands like this, and then these little poppies, or whatever they are the herbs for healing. So she's the goddess of poetry, of the forge, or smithcraft, and healing. And I think that's such an interesting conglomeration of things. It's like she helped women in childbirth, she helped animals in childbirth, she also is about weaving and homecraft, and she's also the goddess of beer, which is very important for today. So actually, both smithcraft and beer brewing have something in common, and that is an alchemical change that was very mysterious to our ancestors. And it was said to be divinely given. And that's why all the smiths were the smiths. They were the people who did the horseshoes and worked in the iron, and they told, the fathers told the sons and told the sons, and so that skill stayed in that family because it was an alchemical process that was seen to be magical by our ancestors, and the same with beer. Here you just take these little hops and you take water, and then you get this stuff that is better than either water or hops. So the holiday today is called Imalk because it means ewe's milk in Gaelic. And this is the time when the baby lambs were born, and so lambs and baby calves were also holy to Bridget. So just as Bridget's influence swept west in a pre-Christian era, when Christianity came, that also swept west from the Holy Lands, marching through Europe and then out onto the islands. And it was there in Ireland that the concentration of the worshipers of Bridget remain to this day. And in fact, I have a newsletter that maybe some of you don't know about. It comes out about the first of every month. It came out at 6 a.m. this morning. You can go to my personal website called ancientwisdomonline.com and subscribe to the newsletter. So the newsletter this month is about Bridget and ways that we can honor Bridget in our lives today. And already, I mean, before service started, I was getting posts and photographs of people's altars to Bridget today, you know, in our culture. So she is alive and well. And the Brigantine sisters in Ireland still keep a flame burning eternally for the goddess, who then became a saint. You know how they got all the pagans and the Christians, you know, mixed it up. And so the goddess actually became a saint, Saint Bridget, and many of the same stories about the goddess and the saint are common. So why am I sharing this with you today? I remember years ago, Kathy Fowler asked me, is science of mind really an earth-based religion? And actually, every single religion had its roots in the seasons and the rainfall and the relationship of humans to the natural world, because that's what there was for our ancestors. There was nature. There wasn't cathedrals, and there weren't books. There was just the trees that were the cathedrals. So all of our religion has its base in this earthy stuff. And when you think of a modern metaphysician's desire for their spirituality, I think there are two main things that we all long for. We all long for that experience of oneness. And we all long for an ability to make our life what we want. And so oneness and mastery are what we're all about. And so anytime I can suggest to us that there might be a way to experience that oneness that you've never thought about, that if you just did that practice with the idea that maybe I can experience my oneness with God through this, it would happen. I remember when a number of years ago I got together with some of my friends from college, and at age 40, one of my friends had braces. And we were all saying, well, you know, why? You know, you were pretty before. Why are you having braces now? And she said, well, you know, my dentist really said that I had headaches and my jaw, you know, didn't meet, and he said it would get worse if I didn't have braces. And so I'm doing this, I'm having braces, and it hurts. And she said, you know, my dentist told me to meditate as a way to deal with the pain. And I said, wow, that is fascinating. Do you also have a spiritual experience when you meditate? And she said, oh no, it just helps with the pain. I think because no one told her that you can do this same practice and have this amazing experience of oneness with your source. And so for me, doing things that our ancestors used to do in reference to deities that were perhaps more alive eons ago is a cue for me to try that in my life. And so what I've found is that many, many, many practices are doorways from my normal waking life right into God. Because you know what? every single religion, every single god, every single goddess, every single hero and heroine and archetype has brought someone to God. And so why not us? When Rick welcomed you, he said, there are many paths to God, but indeed only one God. Well, yeah, there are many paths, and let's walk as many of them as we possibly can. So my book that I put together called Oneness and Mastery, because that's what I believe we're about, has a quote from Einstein. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and all science. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer pause to wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead. His eyes are closed. And so what I want for us is our eyes wide open and our ability to try anything that might work so that we can know what love would do now. You know, a lot of us are going to watch the game this afternoon, and I betcha, I absolutely know that there are athletes who, carrying that ball across the goal line, have experienced God. That was their doorway into this oneness. So, ushers, now's the time. The ushers are now going to pass baskets, and quickly, you're going to take 3 beans. Quickly, start them going right now, because everybody has to get 3 beans, and I can only, do this soft shoe so long. Don't look at them and think which are the best beans. Take 3 beans. And while you're doing this, listen to me, okay? And Bodhi, can we have a little music in a minute? So, at Imalk, which is this holiday on February 1st and 2nd, our ancestors would also bless the seeds that would be planted a little bit later in the springtime. And all of the people would gather around about this big bonfire where they took the embers from the bonfire and then put them into their own hearth again. And, okay, this needs to go a little bit faster. The ushers, don't have them in your hands. Give them to the people. Okay. So all of the village would get together and bless the seeds that would be planted. And so that's what we're going to do today. We are going to have the ritual of the 3 beans. The 3-bean ritual. This is an ancient ritual that I made up, yes. So we're going to do something with these 3 beans, but you're going to take them home and plant them. And what I would like you to do is, like today or tomorrow, because this is the holiday time, the 1st and the 2nd. The holiday actually starts at sundown tonight and goes to sundown tomorrow night. I want you to stand in and make a shadow yourself and plant the beans in your shadow so that your energy is on the beans as you plant them. These beans are big enough to write on, and so you can either write on them today. There's many pens around about. You can write on them. But the 3 beans are going to be these wishes. Bean number 1 is a wish for Temenos. Bean number 2 is a wish for the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. And bean number 3 is a wish for yourself. And as these beans grow, which they are guaranteed to grow, guaranteed, the dreams that you have wished will also grow. So holding these beans in your hand right now, just without thinking too much, What is the wish that you have for Temenos? Could just be peace. What is the wish you have for the Golden Gate Center? It could be peace or joy. And what is the wish that you have for yourself? Now, if you're comfortable, turn to a person next to you and hold your beans all together in both of your hands and bless each other's beans. And Bodhi will play a little bean blessing music. Okay, my darlings. Good blessing energy. I can feel it. It is so precious to see you work like this together. This is the end of my message, except that we have a new thing this year, and the new thing this year is going deeper. And this is one of those times at the end of each talk when if people think, well, that was interesting, but I want a little bit more. This is the going deeper for today. Invite a new way to experience oneness to explode in your heart. Something that you have no idea what it might be, but you just, maybe as you plant your beans, maybe that's the wish for yourself. I want to experience God in an entirely new way. There is God calling, right there. Wow, that is so cool. Isn't that great? That's so great. Hello, God. That is And so with that, oh my goodness, Bridget is so funny. Let's do the inner work now, my sweethearts. And just know that I open myself now to that ancient energy of Bridget the Bright One, as she is called. Many times not even seen in form, but seen in the flames. And I know that her poetry brings me and all of my beloveds here inspiration. Inspiration for a new way of being, a new healing, a new oneness, a new love one unto another, a new way to reach across to Temenos and them to us, an inspiration for something new in our lives. That is the energy of Bridget. I also know that her fire of the forge is for transformation. Transformation is one of those things that sounds great and can be pretty daunting because we become entirely new, entirely different, leaving all the old ways of being behind and entering an entirely new way, a world of peace right here and now, transformed in this moment, right now. That is what we are. We are peace and transformed into it in this moment, and anything unlike it is left behind. And then finally, the flow of healing, Bridget's beautiful energy of restoring back to our optimum way of being in body, mind, and spirit, healing anything that stands in the way of optimum experience in body, mind, and spirit. We ask we accept, and we receive. Blessed be.